This is actually a really great video. Maybe you can guess why looking at the thumbnail. This is from Mark Lewis. I think he primarily does like fitness content. He also has a second channel, or his wife has a second channel doing like DIY kind of house sort of stuff. What am I trying to say? Anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I talked about his video a while back where he said he's no longer going to identify as vegan. He's going to call himself fussy. That was a good video too. But basically his wife went vegan and then he was like, okay, I guess, and learned about factory farming and was like, yeah, that's pretty terrible. And so he went vegan too.
My diet history is that from the age of 0 to about 45, I ate all the animals. Then my wife became vegan. I tried eating like a vegan for a month just for a YouTube video and never went back to meat again. Why? Well, I found it very simple to stick to and noticed almost no impact on my training or performance or health in general. I just carried on getting fitter, as I had been doing on meat. Then I decided to read up on animal farming for the first time ever really, and just thought, that is not for me.
He's not an activist, like he doesn't go out of his way to promote veganism or anything. Again, that's like not the focus of his channel at all. Even says like, I don't care, do whatever you want. This is just how I live my life, which I think is good. I think it's good to have quote unquote normal people being vegan or eating, significantly reduced amount of animal products. I think that's really good, especially when it's a man. Let's be real. So I'm going to try not to show every single part of his video. It's obviously very well scripted. It's only 6 minutes long, which I very much appreciate. I could learn from that, obviously, but it's very interesting, the timing of this. I think this came out a month ago. So right before the Seaspiracy video, the 50-minute waffling from the director of Seaspiracy on why he is no longer vegan. Yeah, the difference is striking. I'll say that.
It wasn't something I discussed much here because it wasn't something I gave much thought to. What you don't eat doesn't occupy your mind much. For example, you probably don't walk around thinking you don't eat giraffe. You just don't eat them. However, to stick with that analogy, what I found was that I was being offered giraffe a lot and would simply say, no thanks, I don't eat giraffe, but would then get met with interesting feedback. People would say, you're a weirdo then, your choice to not eat giraffe means you are going to get sick and your performance will suffer and you will waste away to nothing and then you'll die. And you not realise how many giraffes get killed just to harvest the potatoes that make your vegan chips. Don't you watch Joe Rogan's podcast and what's wrong with a real potato? And do you guys ever shut up about not eating giraffe?
Not to nitpick, but there is a difference, right, between giraffe and cow. When most people eat cow, then of course people are going to be like, what? Why don't you eat cow? Oh, you think it's wrong? Oh, that makes me feel bad. Let me ask more questions. Wait, you're going to get sick. Right, okay. I can eat cow because if I don't, I'll get sick. Okay, got it.
I now eat these. Obviously, that has excited the meat eaters because they think it's a sign that they were right all along and I was hours from death before giving in and having scrambled eggs. And it's obviously upset the vegans because it comes out of a chicken. So here's the deal for anyone who cares. My chickens are rescue chickens. Doesn't mean they come help you in an emergency, it just means they are ones from the egg-laying industry, which kills them off for dog food at about 1.5 years old, which they can afford to do because there's millions of female chickens hatched each year to replace them.
And speaking of the other channel, they do have a video on getting the chickens, setting up this temporary shelter coop for the chickens because they had to have that. They had to have like photographic proof that they would have a safe area for the chickens to live in. And yeah, they talk about doing that. They show them building it, both he and his wife. Then they go get the chickens from these volunteers and they've got like a cardboard box to carry the chickens home in. It's very strange, but it's really lovely. It's a lovely video. I highly recommend it.
Mine aren't dog food though. They are with me and they are happy and they're 10 times healthier than when they were free range in the factory. Many will argue that the very act of taking chickens like this just allows the egg laying industry to continue, like buying from a puppy farm. I don't believe that. My chickens weren't bred to be pets like puppies. If everyone stopped rescuing chickens, the industry would just carry on regardless. The only thing ever likely to alter that industry is if people actually asked about the male chickens or learning what free range really means. So the chickens are my pets and they lay eggs, so I eat them.
I didn't get any sense that money changed hands at all. I mean, maybe it did. Maybe there is some amount of covering the costs for the volunteers. Gas, maybe, because they're traveling like all over the place, delivering these chickens to people who want them, to want to have them as pets.
The volunteers collect literally thousands of chickens at a time and then drive hundreds of miles across the country, distributing the chickens to people like ourselves.
So that's the one thing I'm not clear on. I'm not sure how the volunteers are getting these chickens. Are they actually paying farmers for the chickens? People entranced by a misplaced rural nostalgia are buying chickens from the same hatcheries that supply the nation's largest poultry producers and rearing them without proper space, food, or veterinary care. The most commonly available hens have been bred to be good egg layers. At the same time, backyard farmers often use enhanced feed, light, or other tools to prompt hens to lay constantly. After keeping up that pace for 18 months to 2 years, however, hens often develop reproductive problems, including oviduct diseases that can kill them. However, healthy hens can live for years longer, up to a decade after they stop laying. Because chickens are notoriously hard to sex, some backyard farmers wind up with roosters, which are often culled and killed because they can be noisy, aggressive, and illegal, and of course, they don't lay eggs at all. This happened to one of my kids' teachers, and she talked about how upsetting it was to have to sell off the rooster and not knowing what was going to happen to him. Now, Mark actually does have a rooster that he rescued from an animal sanctuary to help, keep the hens in line, so to speak, to help lead the hens into the coop, that sort of thing. So I don't think most of this applies to their situation.
My chickens weren't bred to be pets like puppies. If everyone stopped rescuing chickens, the industry would just carry on regardless.
I see what he's saying. The chickens aren't being bred for that purpose. They aren't being bred to be pets like puppies are. They are a waste product, essentially. And as I talked about in the Conspiracy No Longer Vegan video, waste products, when they are sold, do support the industry, right? Gelatin, parts for pet food. But it is a very minor thing. I mean, very few people are getting these chickens at all, right? Like, it really is a drop in the bucket. Yeah, I can understand his reasoning. And again, it is so lovely to see these chickens happy and healthy. They do show them again in that video where they get the chickens, and you can see like they're missing feathers. They don't look healthy.
Now, saying I enjoy the taste of eggs is not some sort of weird win for the meat eaters. I've always said I understand the appeal of eating meat and dairy, and a nice leather jacket for that matter. It all tastes very good. Not the jacket, but there are many things which appeal to me, but I don't just go and help myself if I'm unhappy with the cost of doing so to someone else or something else.
Very well said. And of course, I've talked about backyard hens a million times on this channel. I personally see no issue with that, particularly if the hen actually is a rescue hen, right? There are lots of cases of people who unfortunately get these chickens because it seems so cool and nice to like have your own eggs. And then they go, oh, this is an animal that needs care and attention and money. And never mind, I don't actually want this. At the farm sanctuary headquartered in Watkins Glen, New York, some 225 former backyard chickens are waiting for new homes. They're among at least 400 to 500 abandoned chickens that show up every year, including many suffering from maltreatment or illness. They're put up on Craigslist all the time when they don't lay anymore. They're dumped all the time. Enthusiasts who start out with good intentions frequently wind up posting messages like this one delivered to Britt and Klaus last month. One of our hens grew up into a rooster and our neighbors are starting to complain. Do you know someone who might take him? People don't know what they're doing, Britt and Klaus said. And you've got this whole culture of people who don't know what the hell they're doing, teaching every other idiot out there. Again, I don't think any of this applies to Mark's situation, but it is important to note that there are a lot of rescue hens. You do not have to go pay farmers for chickens if you want a backyard hen. And of course, I'm sure I don't need to say this, but please do look into what it takes to care for chickens. Point is, I see no issue with eating eggs from a creature who does not care, who is not interested in those eggs. Like, to me, it's like eating bear poop or something. I don't know, bear poops and you go eat it. Like, the bear does not care, but also don't do that. Ew.
Now, I know some vegans would say this egg isn't without cost because I didn't get consent from the chicken, so I shouldn't have helped myself to it. But I don't think a chicken knows what consent is. I think it just knows, like any other animal, if it's content and unstressed, which my chickens are. Oh, and anybody thinking consent from a chicken, those vegan people are nuts, perhaps. But it's an opinion born from a belief system that they feel incredibly strongly about and rooted in the simple idea that you should be nice to animals, and then taken to a point which many, me included, do find it hard to relate to.
That was a really nice way to put that. I certainly can learn from that to be more charitable and to try to see where people you disagree with are coming from. That's just really nice. And I think it often is easier to kind of live by that instead of looking at each situation as it comes, you know, individually, sort of like rural utilitarianism, right? Where you just have this rural veganism and that's it, period, right? Like, no, of course you're not going to eat chicken eggs, regardless of how you get them, because it's an animal product. I can definitely understand the appeal of that. And disgust, yuck factor, that is a big part of veganism for a lot of people, right? And it just feels yucky and maybe feels wrong, you know, to eat eggs when you already have the position of getting eggs from these creatures the vast majority of the time is so horrible and is so wrong.
Oh, my sheep are pet sheep or lawnmowers. They are bred as pets and they have a very different life with me to a regular farm sheep, not least because they might live for 20 years. And they are hair sheep, not wool sheep, so there's no shearing.
Those are actually bred like dogs, you know, to be pets. So, you know, not my favorite thing, but it's not really super similar to dogs because we don't have a lot of sheep running around without homes. So yeah, he eats eggs now from chickens he cares for. He's not buying granola bars with honey for his child, but then eating them himself because I should say too, he does have a lot of land. I brought that up in the other video, just saying, you know, I see some of these backyard hens and doesn't look like they have a whole lot of space. He said in a comment that he has 10 acres, so a lot of space for the sheep as well. And there are a lot of comments like, well, you should feed the eggs back to the chickens. I think he says like 70% of the eggs do go back to the chickens, right? The chickens do eat them, but they're not going to eat the rest. They're foraging for the rest of the stuff. So clearly, like, they're unwanted. They're just going to sit there and rot. So yeah, just a striking difference, this video and the Ali Tabrizi video. It definitely has an honest versus maybe dishonest sort of vibe, right? I mean, when you have to spend 49 minutes explaining why you don't feel good about buying vegan marshmallows and that you eat honey now, it definitely does give off a, is this the truth? Or is it just because you're a conservative conspiracy theorist now? I also really like the part about he didn't really have to think about it much more.
Then I decided to read up on animal farming for the first time ever, really, and just thought, that is not for me. And that was that. It wasn't something I discussed much here because it wasn't something I gave much thought to.
Yeah, I mean, it really is quite simple. All you have to do is, if you don't want to watch footage, just read a little bit about the industry and how they treat these animals. And again, just the male chicks that he keeps bringing up. They are ground up alive. Even if they're not ground up alive, they are killed. They are unwanted. And then if you want to watch footage, there's plenty of that. I think Mercy for Animals just put out a new investigation of dairy cows. And, you know, it's the babies moments after birth being ripped away from their moms and the cows are crying. Like, anyone can watch that and go, oh, that's bad. And we can still talk about the nuance. We can talk about backyard hens and we can talk about, is there a possibility to have ethical milk? I have a whole older video on that. Spoiler, it would be extremely expensive. We can talk about, you know, the products with tiny amounts of animal products. How much does that really matter? But the important stuff, the meat, the milk, carton of milk, you know, the ice cream, the eggs, the cheese, there's no question that buying that stuff supports a wholly unethical industry. You have to do a lot of justifying and excusifying and mental gymnastics to convince yourself otherwise. Or just say, I don't care. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, whatever. I don't care about animals. So yeah, overall really enjoyed that video. Nice little palate cleanser. I like seeing the cute chickens. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I really hope you enjoyed it. I would love to know your thoughts. And of course, do like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. And of course, giving me money really helps out the channel. Thank you so much to all of my supporters here on YouTube, my members on YouTube, and my patrons at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I do post 2 exclusive videos a month for tier 2 members and patrons. I do a vlog, and then I also do a controversial topic. I'm going to record the vlog right now, actually. Anyway, thanks again, guys. New video soon. Oh, now my computer, no, it just randomly does this. It randomly charges up. All I have opened is Audacity. I'm just recording audio, that's it. Usually it's fine with that, but sometimes no.